The Galactic Empire declared victory with fireworks made of ionized starlight, exploding in neat geometric blossoms above the Imperial Senate's sky dome. Billions of aliens watched the broadcast through holographic streams, their expressions ranging from smug delight to relieved exhaustion. The Emperor himself, draped in living gold threads, raised his four shimmering arms toward the camera and announced that Earth, small, chaotic, and endlessly inconvenient, had been conquered in a single afternoon. His voice boomed with the pride of a predator convinced it had finally brought down the unruly creature that kept biting its ankles. On countless screens, tactical maps flickered with blinking red dots where human cities once sprawled, and the Empire's admirals nodded, pleased with the neatness of their triumph. The galaxy sighed. Humanity, at last, was contained. Or so they believed. The camera panned to show cheering crowds across Imperial worlds, species of every shape vibrating with relief that the noisy blue planet had finally been quieted. Several alien commentators joked that maybe, now that the Terran experiment had ended, there might be fewer unpredictable explosions in the galaxy. Others speculated that humans would adapt quickly to servitude, citing old footage of humans smiling even during disasters. Laughter echoed through the Grand Hall. The Emperor signaled his advisors to prepare the next phase of occupation, dismantle Earth's defenses, seize cultural archives, and install a puppet government before the humans regained their eccentric energy. Everything was orderly, celebratory, precise, until the broadcast flickered. A new window opened beside the Emperor's image, uninvited. A woman appeared. Human. Late 30s or early 40s. Calm, poised, wearing a dark military uniform with no decorations besides a small silver pin shaped like a question mark. An odd choice that immediately unsettled every strategist watching. Her hair was tied back with military neatness, yet a single strand fell across her forehead like it refused to obey the rules. Her face carried that politely amused expression humans wore when someone was about to learn something unpleasant. Her eyes were steady, unblinking, and far too confident for someone whose species had supposedly been conquered. The Emperor's smile faltered. Admirals leaned forward. The galaxy held its breath. "Well," the woman said softly, her voice warm as a campfire yet edged in steel. "Congratulations. You conquered Earth. That's adorable." She lifted a cup of coffee into the frame, blew across the surface, and took a slow sip. "Can't fault your enthusiasm. Really. For effort." The hall erupted in confused murmurs. A Zirathai commentator whispered, "Adorable? Is that a human threat word?" A Gralic general turned slightly purple, muttering that humans often smiled right before initiating violence, and that maybe this wasn't the victory they thought it was. The Emperor raised a hand for silence, but even his authority couldn't quiet the tension growing like a storm. The human general continued speaking with conversational ease. "I'm General Aurelia Vale, acting representative for what remains of Earth's Defense Council." She lifted her brows in a sympathetic arc. "You must be tired. Conquering things is exhausting, isn't it? Especially when you think you've won." Her tone was respectful. Her wording was polite. Yet something fermented beneath the surface, something that made even the bravest alien soldiers instinctively adjust their posture. That unsettling human quality, the ability to smile while sharpening a blade, filled every syllable she uttered. The Emperor cleared his throat. "Human," he said, "your world has fallen. Surrender is your only reasonable option at this juncture." "Oh, I love that word," she replied, setting the cup down. "Reasonable. Humans are big fans of being reasonable. Especially right before we do something incredibly unreasonable." She leaned slightly closer to the camera. "Tell me, Your Radiance, did you actually check if Earth was conquered? Or did you just conquer the parts we let you see?" Whispers rippled through the Senate chamber. Tactical officers exchanged uneasy glances. Something about her phrasing didn't align with the Empire's reconnaissance data. Several alien dignitaries hovered their fingers above panic alarms. A Zrull ambassador muttered a prayer to its ancestors. The Emperor narrowed his eyes, signaling his staff to review ground reports immediately. Screens flickered again, as though struggling against her intrusion. General Vale's smile brightened, harmless on the surface yet heavy with meaning. You see, humans enjoy a good illusion. Magic shows, Halloween, practical jokes. We like giving people confidence right before gravity pulls the rug out. She shrugged gently. It's cultural. On distant worlds, entire populations shivered without knowing why. She sat back, crossing her legs, and continued with that ironically sweet American politeness. We're not angry, by the way. Anger is messy. Rage is inefficient. No. Humanity has evolved. Her eyes gleamed. We prefer strategy. Admirals began frantically pulling up surveillance feeds. To their horror, they realized that many images looked oddly still, almost staged. Streets too empty. Fires that produced no thermal variation. Human bodies that lay in uncanny, mannequin-like angles. The data didn't move the way real life moved. The Emperor stared at the screens, then at the serene woman on the broadcast. What have you done? He demanded. Prepared, she answered simply. Because from our perspective, it was predictable that the Empire would eventually try something bold. And we respect commitment. Really? But when you announced you'd conquered Earth? Her voice softened into a whisper that slithered into every device across the Empire. You conquered the wrong Earth. A chilling silence laced the galaxy. Even worlds that normally celebrated violence with festivals felt the shift. The temperature seemed to drop. The light dimmed. Reality became fragile. General Vale lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. Instantly, holographic overlays washed across every Imperial monitor. Not illusions, data. Real, undeniable proof. Human fleets that had supposedly been destroyed were missing. Entire armadas, cloaked in silence, nowhere in the Empire's victory reports. Energy signatures from Earth's orbit revealed stealth constructs the Empire's sensors had never detected. Worse still, several Imperial outposts near the core systems had stopped transmitting minutes ago. But she wasn't finished. We humans don't mind losing a round, she said gently. It keeps us humble. And unpredictable. She paused, savoring the moment the way someone savors a good piece of chocolate. But we never lose the game. The Emperor rose from his throne, towering, furious, yet visibly shaken. He attempted to disable the transmission, but her image remained steady, unshakable, as though she had already taken control of more systems than anyone realized. He shouted for his fleet to mobilize. Admirals scrambled. Chaos rippled like a broken wave. General Vale watched their panic with a sympathetic smile. I know. It's a lot to process. Take your time. Breathe. Or whatever your species does instead. She tapped a few keys on her console. While you compose yourselves, just know this. The moment you landed on Earth, something else landed on your homeworld. Gasps erupted. Someone screamed. Alarms sounded in the background. Human humor vanished from her voice, replaced by a depth of calm so absolute it felt prehistoric. Apex. Patient. Final. We gave you a chance not to start this war, she whispered. You chose otherwise. Her screen zoomed slowly forward, focusing on her eyes, gentle, steady, and impossibly dangerous. We're humans, she said. We don't start fights. A thin smile cut across her face. We finish them. The broadcast snapped to black. The Senate chamber had never been so quiet. Even the hum of the hover lamps seemed to fade, as if the machines themselves were unwilling to draw attention to their existence. Every alien present stared at the blank screen where General Aurelia Vale had disappeared seconds earlier, her final whisper clinging like smoke to the air. We finish them. The words crawled down the collective spine of the Empire. They lingered, unsettling, a reminder that perhaps their victory celebration had been premature. The Emperor's four hands clenched the railing of his podium, knuckles glowing white through iridescent skin. He didn't speak. He merely breathed, slow and heavy, as if wrestling with a revelation too large to swallow. Across the chamber, Imperial strategists began scrambling through tablets and overlays, pulling up historical data on humanity with a frantic urgency. Thousands of years of diplomacy, war logs, psychology files, and cultural archives flickered across the hollow screens like an unfolding tapestry. The more they read, the more fear coiled in their faces. Humanity wasn't merely violent. Every species had warriors. Humanity had something else. Something feral. Something mathematical. Something that frightened even the data. One young analyst, a small green-furred creature with trembling paws, squeaked. Humans fought entire wars among themselves, with losses equal to entire planetary populations, yet they kept going. Another voice chimed in, horrified. They documented those wars, celebrated the victories, sang songs about them. A third, older alien whispered the words with reverence. They run toward danger, on purpose. The Emperor exhaled, then gestured for silence. His command rippled through the hall, but authority didn't quell the tension. The fear had already rooted itself in the Imperial mind. We underestimated them, he said finally. We believed their smiles indicated weakness. We believed their kindness indicated surrender. He sank back against his throne as if gravity suddenly doubled. We believed wrong. In a dim corner of the chamber, Admiral Kravax, the Empire's most seasoned naval commander, slowly removed his ceremonial helmet and set it on the table. Without the helmet, his wrinkled violet skin made him appear older, almost fragile. Your radiance, he murmured. Humans only smile that warmly when they have a blade hidden behind their back. His voice trembled, not from fear, but from hard-earned memory. They are apex predators wrapped in soft words. The Emperor turned sharply. Explain, he ordered. Kravax swallowed. 40 cycles ago, I served during the Terran Contact Initiative. We landed in peace. We brought gifts, food, translators, every courtesy. His eyes clouded with the dust of old grief. And then one human boy, barely an adolescent, walked up to our scanning unit, pressed a button, and single-handedly reprogrammed our drone fleet to dance. Dance, your radiance. He made them waltz in the sky. We saw this as a harmless prank. He paused. But beneath the humor was a lesson. Humans learn too fast. Adapt too fast. And they hide their capabilities until it is too late. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some aliens laughed nervously, unable to imagine war machines dancing. Others recognized the danger. A species clever enough to disarm fleets for amusement was a species dangerous beyond measure once provoked. A hologram sizzled to life at the center of the Senate floor, automatically updating itself with fresh reports. Surveillance feeds from Earth flickered, some normal, others revealing terrifying discrepancies. Human citizens calmly boarding evacuation crafts. Thermal readings inconsistent with battle debris. Entire sectors showing staged destruction, perfectly symmetrical. But the most unsettling images were those not present at all. The Empire's victory logs had no record of resistance. No record of human soldiers. No record of human defense systems engaging. It looked less like a defeat, more like an invitation. Aurelia Vale had chosen her smile deliberately. Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, far from the reach of the Empire's chaotic scrambling, a human command bunker pulsed with quiet activity. General Vale stood at the center of the dimly lit operations hall, calmly reviewing tactical updates on a floating screen. Her posture was relaxed, but her eyes carried the razor-sharp precision of someone who had spent her life walking the thin line between peace and annihilation. Beside her stood Colonel Harlan Briggs, a man built like a cliff, broad shoulders, steady voice, a lifetime of battlefield wisdom etched into his features. "You sure they fell for it?" he asked, crossing his arms as he watched Imperial fleets circling the decoy planet. "Empire doesn't seem stupid. Just arrogant." "They fell," Vale replied softly. "Arrogance blinds faster than stupidity." She tapped a display showing the Empire's core strategic outposts. Several blinked in red, indicating successful infiltration. "And they stepped exactly where we needed them to." Her lips curved faintly. "It's almost impressive." Briggs let out a low whistle. "You really told them they conquered the wrong Earth." "They did," she answered. "They conquered a stage set." "But no human casualties?" Briggs asked. "None. Just mannequins, holograms, and enough theatrics to fool a species that's never questioned its own victory before." She folded her hands behind her back, her voice dipping into quiet steel. Now they're panicking. That's good. Panic forces enemies to reveal their priorities. Back in the Empire's Senate, another hologram burst to life, feeds from their own territory. Several Imperial outposts near the core worlds had gone silent. Warships scrambled to investigate. Commanders shouted conflicting orders. The once organized regime was cracking like thin ice beneath a heavy boot. One alien shouted, "Human infiltration teams are already inside our borders. How did they get there?" Another responded with terror, "How do humans travel without ships? How do they stay invisible?" The Emperor slammed all four hands into the railing. "Find them!" he roared. "Find every human in the Empire." The Senate dissolved into chaos. Meanwhile, General Vale observed their panic through encrypted satellite feeds. Her calm expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened behind her back. Briggs noticed. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "I'm remembering something." "What's that?" "Every time humans were pushed to the edge, every invasion, every disaster, we rebuilt stronger. Faster. Meaner." Her eyes burned with an old fire. "We learned that survival requires strategy. And extinction requires precision." Briggs chuckled darkly. "You do love that poetic menace thing." "It's not menace," she replied. "It's mathematics." She turned away from the screens, moving toward the observation window that revealed the curve of the moon and the distant shimmer of the decoy Earth below. "The Empire thinks we're monsters now. But we didn't choose this." Her voice softened with something old and wounded. "We offered peace more times than I can count." "And they never took it," Briggs said. She nodded. "And now they realize what refusing peace really meant." A new alert chimed. Vale tapped it open. Live footage appeared, a cluster of Imperial warships pulling back from the fake battle zone, their shields flickering. "Look at them," she murmured. Terrified. Confused. Trying to rewrite the script while standing in the wrong theater. Briggs smirked. "Should we tell them the next act?" "Not yet." She breathed in, long and steady. "Fear is leverage. Let them feel it." Deep in the Senate chamber, panic hit its peak. A terrified ambassador shouted, "Humanity is declaring war." Another yelled, "They already have." The Emperor rose again, but this time his posture was not regal, it was desperate. "We must send a message to the human woman," he insisted. "We must negotiate before." The chamber lights dimmed. A single image appeared on every screen. General Aurelia Vale. Eyes steady. Posture calm. Smile gone. "We need to talk," she whispered. The Senate froze. And the galaxy leaned closer. The Emperor expected rage, accusations, perhaps even desperation. What he did not expect was the quiet, measured tone of General Aurelia Vale as her image flickered across every Imperial screen. Her expression held no fury, no triumph, only an unnerving calm, like a surgeon preparing a patient for a procedure that would hurt far more than expected. "Thank you for your patience," she said, as though addressing a polite conference instead of a panicking interstellar empire. "I know this is a stressful time for you. Transitions always are." Half the Senate flinched. The other half bristled. Aurelia's voice carried a peculiar warmth, an American softness layered over something ancient and feral. "Let's get something out of the way," she continued. "Humans didn't vanish. You didn't annihilate our fleets. You didn't conquer our world." Her head tilted gently, a gesture that felt disarmingly human yet predatory. "You walked into a house with the lights on and no one home. That should have been your first clue." Admiral Kravax rose, trembling. "Human, what is your goal? What is this theater you've constructed?" "Theater is such a good word," Aurelia replied with a faint smile. "Humans love theater. We use it to warn our enemies in advance. You call it deception. We call it courtesy." The chamber erupted in protests, but Aurelia raised a hand, and somehow every voice quieted, as if the room recognized power even across light years. "Let's be honest," she said. "Humans are complicated. Friendly, loud, easily entertained, occasionally impulsive. But underneath all that noise, she leaned in slightly, we are very, very good at surviving. Her voice softened into a whisper that crawled through every system, every ship, every imperial nervous system. And we only get quiet when it's time to end a problem. The hollow feeds shifted behind her, showing vast regions of space where the Empire's outposts had gone dark. Ships disappeared without explosions. Stations powered down without alarms. It was too precise, too silent, too surgical. The Senate began to understand the scale of what had already happened. You see, Aurelia said, we didn't attack you. She tapped the console lightly. We removed your ability to attack us. The Emperor surged to his feet and slammed his 4 palms onto the railing. This is an act of war. Aurelia's eyebrows lifted with something like pity. The act of war was when you invaded Earth, your radiance. Everything after is just resolution. A feed blinked open on the Emperor's own command table. Imperial warships drifted helplessly near their capital moon, engines offline, weapons cold. Human infiltration teams moved like shadows between their hulls, disabling systems with elegant efficiency. No casualties. No grand explosions. Just quiet unraveling. Why aren't you destroying them? Kravax whispered, horrified by the restraint. Aurelia's smile remained soft. Because this isn't about destruction. It's about education. You misread us. We're simply correcting the record. Her tone never changed, but the threat beneath it thickened like storm clouds gathering behind a sunny sky. She walked slowly across her command deck, the camera following her with chilling grace. Human officers moved with predatory silence behind her. No chatter, no bravado, just disciplined, razor-focused purpose. In your culture, Aurelia continued, power is demonstrated through noise, through shouting, displays, intimidation. She paused and touched the edge of a star map. In ours? Power is demonstrated through patience, planning, silence. She glanced back at the screen. Silence means the trap already closed. Several senators sank into their seats, trembling. Others looked at the Emperor with pleading eyes. Few had ever imagined humans could orchestrate such a sprawling, elegant entrapment. They were supposed to be chaotic, emotional, predictable. But nothing about this was chaotic. Aurelia pointed to a new image. The Empire's largest shipyard, its docks emptied, every vessel gone. These ships are not destroyed, she said gently. They've simply been moved. We borrowed them. She turned toward another screen. Your communications grid is not broken. It's rerouted. Another display flared. Your economic core isn't collapsing. It's been paused. The Emperor's voice cracked. Why? What do you want from us? Aurelia's eyes softened, unexpectedly human. We wanted you to stop hurting us. She let that linger. We wanted peace, over and over. You mistook our restraint for weakness, our diplomacy for softness, our smiles for surrender. Briggs stepped into frame behind her, expression hard as iron. Aurelia nodded slightly, then faced the Empire again. Humanity is diverse, messy, loud. But when we unify, when we decide something must be done. She exhaled slowly. There is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than a human with purpose. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And you gave us purpose. Panic rippled through the Senate. One ambassador shouted for evacuation. Another demanded immediate surrender. A third wept openly, clutching a datapad filled with strategic maps that now meant nothing. But Aurelia, she remained composed, almost serene. I'm not here to destroy the Empire, she said. Destruction is a child's answer to conflict. She held their eyes. I'm here to change it. Kravax stared at her with a mix of awe and terror. You mean to conquer us? Aurelia shook her head. Conquest is inefficient. We prefer something cleaner. She stepped closer to the camera, her voice dropping to a silky whisper. We're going to remove your ability to wage war. Every weapon, every ship, every command relay. Every leader still thinking conquest is noble. Her smile returned, almost gentle. And then we're going to leave you alive. A mercy you never gave us. The Emperor roared in outrage, but the sound felt small, collapsing against the enormity of her words. Aurelia continued, her tone never rising. This is the polite apocalypse. No burning worlds. No screaming cities. No ash. She lifted a finger, and satellites around the imperial capital dimmed, their systems peacefully winding down like a lullaby. Just a quiet ending to your era of dominance. The chamber shook, not from weaponry, but from the tremor of realization. What have you done? The Emperor whispered. Aurelia's eyes glittered, reflecting a truth older than the Empire itself. What humans always do when someone threatens our home. She leaned close, voice soft as silk and sharp as broken bone. We adapt. And then we end the threat. A chime echoed behind her. Briggs approached and whispered something only she could hear. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. A tightening, a sharpening, a new edge. She turned back to the camera. One more thing, she said quietly. You asked earlier what our goal was. What the theater was for. She lifted her hand. And the image behind her changed. Not ships. Not soldiers. Not explosions. A single massive object drifted above the Empire's homeworld, cloaked until this moment. A reminder, Aurelia whispered, that humans always bring an encore. The signal cut to black. The reveal of the massive object above the Empire's homeworld shattered the illusion of control more effectively than any weapon could. It loomed like a silent moon forged of black alloy, absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. Not a ship. Something older, heavier, patient in a way only humanity could engineer. General Aurelia Vale stood before its projection with quiet composure, letting the Empire draw its own conclusions. Fear, panic, awe, they rippled through the Senate chamber like a breaking tide. Even the Emperor's breath hitched, his hands trembling as he gripped the railing. That, Aurelia said, her voice barely above a whisper, is your final courtesy. Our last polite warning before consequences become irreversible. She stepped aside, allowing the projection to magnify the object's surface. Hundreds of dormant panels glimmered faintly, soft enough to appear harmless, until one realized each tiny blip was a concealed weapon array. Thousands of them, turned off only because she willed it so. We call it the archivist. It learns. It waits. And it never fires unless humanity is threatened. Gasps erupted across the hall. Some senators fainted. Others scrambled for exits. A few stared with hollow eyes, recognizing that the Empire was now prey-cornered by a smiling predator. Admiral Kravax rose in desperation. What do you intend to do with us? Aurelia's gaze softened, though not with sympathy. What you forced us to become, she answered. A shield sharpened into a blade. She returned her attention to the hologram. The archivist isn't here to destroy your world. Destruction is simple. Crude. Boring. Her voice thinned into a precise edge. We're here to erase your capacity for conquest. The Emperor's roar echoed through the chamber, but it lacked the arrogance it once held. You cannot strip the Empire of its sovereignty. Aurelia regarded him with the tired patience of someone explaining gravity to a child. Sovereignty is earned through wisdom. You earn the opposite. Her fingers danced across her console. Far above the imperial homeworld, the archivist awakened. A low hum resonated through space, vibrating through the bones of every creature on nearby planets. Panels unfolded like petals, revealing lattices of humming cores. Colonel Briggs stepped into frame beside her, voice calm. Phase 1 confirmed. Imperial weapon grids offline. Their fleets can't fire a pebble. Thank you, Aurelia murmured. She looked back to the Emperor. We disabled your war engines. Cleanly. Without casualties. That's more courtesy than your armies gave us. Screens around the chamber flickered as reports flooded in. Missile silos empty, cannons cold, starfighter hangars sealed by unknown locks. Panic sharpened. Desperation thickened. Some senators begged for mercy. Others demanded retaliation despite having no means to fight. Kravax bowed his head, accepting truth before his peers. We thought humans were reckless, chaotic, uncontrolled. He lifted his gaze to Aurelia. But you are cold fire. Her smile was quiet, but not unkind. We don't like war. We just refuse to lose one. A silence stretched between them, heavy, raw, honest. Then, Aurelia shifted her stance slightly, every movement deliberate. Now comes phase 2, she said. You'll dislike it, but you'll survive it. Consider that a gift. Suddenly, the archivist released a pulse, gentle enough not to kill, strong enough to break every chain binding the Empire's civilian data systems. Files locked for centuries opened. Secret war plans spilled into public view. Covert atrocities the Empire had buried now shone like exposed nerves. The Senate chamber dissolved into screams as truth illuminated the rot they'd depended on. Aurelia watched with unblinking stillness. Oppression thrives in ignorance. We're simply providing light. The Emperor staggered back, his skin turning pale silver with shock. You dare lecture us? No, Aurelia's voice softened, almost mournful. I'm reminding you that every empire falls. The wiser ones fall quietly. Briggs stepped forward again, handing Aurelia a small datapad. It's time. She took it, her expression unreadable. Patch me into their planetary broadcast. Within seconds, her image filled every screen on the Empire's homeworld. In markets, schools, barracks, temples, and private homes. Billions of aliens froze as the calm human general looked directly into their eyes. There was no threat in her face, only resolve. People of the Empire, she began. This isn't your fault. Your leaders chose war. You paid the price. Humanity doesn't want your suffering. Her eyes softened. We want you to be free of the leaders who keep choosing violence. Her words rippled through the planet like a shockwave. For the first time in Imperial history, citizens dared to look at their rulers with scrutiny rather than fear. The Emperor lunged toward the camera, but his guards hesitated, uncertain whether to protect him or surrender. His voice split with desperation. Humanity will pay for this treachery. Aurelia tilted her head, pitying him. You can't collect a debt when your hands are empty. Briggs tapped a control. The archivist deployed shimmering blue drones that spread across the Imperial sky like a flock of luminous birds. They weren't weapons, they were signal amplifiers. They broadcast every command the Emperor attempted to issue, showing his chaos, his fear, his unraveling authority. Citizens watched their leader lose control in real time. This is how tyranny ends, Aurelia whispered. Not with a bang. With truth. The Emperor collapsed to his knees, defeated without a single shot fired. Aurelia studied him quietly. You weren't our enemy, she said. Your choices were. Then she turned to Briggs. Initiate Phase 3. He nodded and activated the final sequence. The archivist released a final pulse, one not meant to disable, but to restore. Power grids reignited, communications cleared, civilian systems stabilized. The Empire, stripped of its weapons and manipulation, stood blinking like a newborn creature seeing light for the first time. Aurelia faced the Senate again. Your worlds are free now. Govern them wisely. Humanity will not interfere unless threatened. She paused, her voice lowering. And do not mistake this mercy for weakness. It is courtesy. Our last one. The chamber trembled as her meaning settled like dust on a silent battlefield. One senator whispered, What happens now? Aurelia looked directly into the camera, her eyes calm and immeasurably dangerous. Now? A faint smile curved her lips. Now we tell you what we took from you while you were celebrating your fake victory. The feed cut in a sharp, echoing snap.